don't see you. There you are. Ah, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm so happy to get to chat with you.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Me too. I was like looking over your questionnaire and I was like, oh my gosh, I am so adoring her with the tattoos and the art. And like, how are we not friends? Oh, you live in Canada. That's why.
Yeah, it's just a little far,
Just a
but
tad far for us to like go out for coffee. It would be a little
yeah.
much. So, what are you dealing with right now? What's your main thing that you're dealing with?
So primarily thoracic outlet syndrome. But then yeah, I also have some miscellaneous other stuff just thrown in there.
Because
Um,
why stop with just one thing, right?
exactly. Yeah, misery loves company, right? So yeah, before I was just like, it's not that bad, and I'm like, oh no, now it kind of is. But it's manageable, right? So
I
it's
love it. We're
okay.
like, okay, this is bad. This is horrible. I can't handle this. And then, like, the next thing comes in, and you're like, oh no, that was okay. Can we go back to that? Like,
Yeah.
when we were just dealing with that one little thing over there,
Yeah, that was nice.
that was
That.
cool. I like looking back when I was like, it was just fibromyalgia, and no shade
Yep.
to everyone who's dealing with fibromyalgia. That's awful. But it was like all of a sudden, the like major dislocations was a little different than
Yep.
like I feel like I got hit by a Mack truck.
Yep, completely. Yeah.
And you had one of the surgeries that my doctors were looking at for me of like rib removal.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I had both done. So I have lovely armpit scars, which is super hot.
I got to see those on
um,
Instagram, right? You posted
yep,
those. Yeah,
yeah,
I've been Instagram stalking you for a while.
yes. Yeah, no, likewise. And yeah, I love that you interviewed Jen. Of course, I listened to hers and her talking about TOS and being a hairdresser. And yeah, she was the first person I met online who also has TOS. And I was like, oh my God, like this is amazing. Because like so few people have it. And I talk about it so much. And like some people really appreciate it, but they can't really relate to it, you know? And yeah, like the rib removals were brutal. Like they did really help, but like what a thing to go through. And now I kind of talk about it to friends, like it's no big deal. I'm like, yeah, I'm just down two ribs, and
Just going for that like Victorian silhouette.
yeah, pretty much. And that's what they think of. They're like, oh, so like, is it like your lower rib? And I'm like, no, like,
This was
they're
not
like, do you have an
cosmetic.
extra? Right? Yeah. And they're like, do you have an extra rib? Is that's what it was? I'm like, no, man, it's just the first one. Like everyone has it. Mine was just genetically too close to my collarbone, and here we are. I really wanted to keep mine though. They didn't let me, which was unfortunate. I wanted to have it like in a jar on a bookshelf,
If
like
anyone who
that's
knows
it's
me
my
knows why I
rib,
adore you, this would be right here. Why I absolutely was like, we need to chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
like, wait a minute, I grew that. It's mine. Like, why are you taking it
yeah.
away?
Yeah, it's like the dark humor, you're making the best of a shitty situation. So I saw a photo of the rib. It was all like bloody in a dish, and I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. But I'm still sad I couldn't keep it.
I
But
think you can make
that's
some good
okay.
art out of that photo. I
Right?
really
Yeah.
think like
I
that
saw
could
one
be.
person like engraved the rib, and I was like, oh, now that's cool, right? It was like it was really beautiful. It's kind of like henna on a bone. Um,
I would be. I live in the Bay Area. We've got some really like badass cool stores. Like,
yeah.
oh god, I'm forgetting the name of it. Jeez, I missed my brain. It was so neat. But we got like these two stores that like have all taxidermy and bones, and
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be
it's
perfect,
fantastic.
right?
Yeah, I think that would go really well with that aesthetic.
Yeah, and then people get freaked out and they're like, "Wait, did you get like part of the rib out?" I was like, "No, man, the whole thing, like it is gone.
Got
Took part of the
evicted.
muscle with it." Yeah, and I'm like, "And I feel great." And they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm
Like,
like, "Yeah, no, like I
yeah.
actually feel better now than I did before." And people get all confused, and then I like awkwardly excuse myself, and
Just like quietly just sort of slink off
yeah,
to the side, like, oh no, it's all good. It's well, I mean, it is kind of something I think everyone who's listening could understand, which is like that weird moment where you're like, yeah, I'm not like everyone else in the room. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, because
hmm.
like I used to not really tell people and no one really knew because like I look completely fine and then I have the tattoos and they're like, yeah, you're badass. And I'm like, I'm also in pain all the time.
Hang on, let me tell
Um,
you how much of a badass, because I don't think you're getting the full picture.
yeah, exactly. And now I'm like overly honest with people because I'm like, no, I want you to know like how fucking hard this is and how little support you get. And now I'm just kind of waiting for all of my friends to get sick at some point. I'm like, like now you get it.
See, what you need is you need friends who are in their 80s
Yes.
because like
Yeah.
no one else gets it. Like,
Yep. Oh yeah, I went to my first I've done 2 chronic pain programs because I am super cool. The first one I went to was in Victoria, so it's more of like a retirement city. And I was like, this is gonna be great. It's the first time. It's gonna help. It's like free. This is awesome. And I go, and it's based in a hospital, and everyone is like 60 to 80 years old. I'm like, oh no. And I really tried. I did like the whole course. I did some things, but the final straw was I was doing pool therapy because your joints move easier in water, and I was like, that makes sense. I show up and I'm all tattooed, and then there's like a retirement group in the pool, and you can see people like watching me walk to that point and get in, and they're like, wait, what? Like,
you
hi
don't.
guys, like. Yeah, so not many people my age relate, but that's why I love like your podcast and the idea that a lot of people are interested in this because they either deal with it themselves or they know someone who has or whatever. But giving it a platform to like honestly talk about because it sucks. And even when people read like Instagram posts, they don't really get like the full picture, right? So
I was just talking to someone, and I won't call them out because they're the most lovely person I know, and I hadn't seen them in ages, and we were having brunch, and they're just like, you're so inspiring. Like, I see your
oh.
Instagram posts, and I see what you're doing, and I'm like, okay, you actually know me in person, so I can give you a little bit more credit than, like, okay, you just see my Instagram and my Facebook and my Twitter life, but, like, there's only one person who gets to see all of it, and that's my husband, who gets to see, like, the breakdowns at 2:00 in the morning.
Yep.
And like, I really never try to like look inspiring because I think that's such a disservice to everyone out there who's like, well, she's hurting and she's doing podcasts. It's like, no, this is my therapy. I live in the United States. I can't afford therapy. So this is my way to do therapy and to talk about it. So it's just a advisory to anyone who's looking at this going, but she can do this. No, trust me, you're not seeing the 2 a.m. Like, it's, there are plenty of emotional breakdowns that you guys are not witnessing because I don't put those up on Instagram yet. I will eventually. Someday I will have a full-blown. Yesterday was close. I was so ticked off yesterday. I actually put it up on Facebook. My street has, I'm in a wheelchair most of the time now. And some guy parked right in front of the little ramp. And he saw me and he just said, oh, well, I'm not going to be long, and walked into his house. I'm like, I am mad enough to put that rant up. That pissed me off. Sorry, off topic, but
no. Yeah, I mean, most people, right? And it's just, I hate being called inspiring too. I'm like, no, man, this sucks. Like, this is not inspirational. I was like, yeah, okay, I like make the best of it, but or like, my partner like helps take care of me, and he's like super understanding, which is great. But then he'll tell people because they'll ask like, oh, where's Angela? Why haven't we seen her in a while? And he's like, oh, she had some surgeries this year, and kind of talks about it a little bit. And then he'll joke and be like, it's actually called thoracic outlet syndrome, and he'll start like explaining it. I'm like, yes. But
see, I'm thinking he's gonna like go the other way and go dark humor and be like, no, she's locked up somewhere.
We joke about that too. Yeah, now just no one sees me, and I'm just like an enigma floating around.
It's like magicians. You're Alice there in like the back room writing stories. Like,
yeah. Oh man.
No, I feel like inspiring needs to be like, it's almost insulting like where inspiring is for when you're chronically ill. It's like, she got out of bed. That's so inspiring. It's like, no. Save that for like Malaya or like the people who are actually like making a decision. Not when there's no other decision to be made, but they actually make a choice to be brave and courageous and do huge things. It's like, this wasn't a choice. I don't have other options.
Yeah.
Believe me, I would opt out of this. If I could like check a box that says, you know what?
Gone. Yeah.
I could be inspiring and sick, or I could be healthy and out of pain.
Yeah.
I would be checking that box so fast. It would be ridiculous. Okay, so I'm crushing on your neck tattoo or the sternum tattoo so much. Like, if you can, go over to YouTube. We have a YouTube channel.
I can show you them
curious
all.
what they look like. I'm not showing all my tattoos right now, but she has like the most badass tattoos, and this wishbone tattoo on the sternum, I am crushing on.
Oh, thanks. It's one of my favorites, but it's funny because I can't actually see it because it's in like my blind spot. But I see it in photos, and it's great. And like even all the tattoos, like a few years ago, I didn't have as many. But it became like, okay, well, I'm in pain all the time. What can I do to take away the pain and like distract myself? And then, I fell in love with tattoos, and that's like, hey, at least you're getting something beautiful afterwards compared to just like suffering, you know? And I tell people, I'm getting all these injections and physiotherapy and like all this different treatment, and you don't get anything out of it, and you're sore and you're bruised. And, I like to balance it with like then getting a new tattoo, because then it's like it's something for me. And so I'm completely addicted. My poor mother. My parents are not a fan of all the tattoos. They like some of them, but I love it. And then it also like has helped me a lot with like insecurity as well, and like the idea of like showing my body and being more like proud of it, even though it's breaking down. But I kind of like that contrast of like, I'm young and tattooed and also really sick. And someone will see a photo and they're like, oh, sick tattoos. I'm like, did you read the caption? Because like, there's a whole lot more going on there, Yeah.
I mean, tattoos for me was like, my body has been so unpredictable my whole life that it was my one thing I could actually control. It was something that I could like have an idea, hand it over to someone, they would do it. It would be what I thought. And yay, I now have something that I chose for my body rather than my body going, so today we're going with Picasso. Just letting you know. We're just gonna like modern art sculpture it today. That's just what's happening. Like, so that was like I could actually control and love. And that's the joke though, is like my kids are getting older. It's like, tattoos, really, Mom? Like like, those aren't cool. Why are you like, no, of course I won't get tattoos. Tattoos aren't cool anymore. Like, great, thanks. I mean,
we're not hip. We're not hip or with
I actually managed to make tattoos uncool. Like, how uncool do you have to be as a person to make tattoos uncool is my only question.
It's a high level.
It's a high bar I reached here in the uncoolness levels. Like, that was really like Olympic pole vaulting levels of uncool. Yeah. All of mine are in weird places. Like, the only ones I get to see are like my wrist tattoos and my forearm tattoos, but my neck all the way down to my spine is covered. And
nice.
I just have to trust. Like, I'm guessing those all still look okay, but
I forget that I have back tattoos sometimes. I've got like a whole slew back here as well.
Yes, you do. Oh my God, that's gorgeous. I love it.
I just forget that it's there. I'm just like, I have part of my back tattooed.
Yes. I see pictures and I'm like, oh, that's right, I have a neck tattoo. I forgot I had a neck tattoo. That's right.
I always joke that, at some point, if I'm like more able and can go like work out at a gym, I'm going to have some dude come up and be like, hey, want to see my tattoo? And it'll be like one tribal on the shoulder. I'm like, want to see mine? Like,
okay, I see that. And like the first thing I can think of is that it's the guy who has, or the girl or the person, whoever is like, I'm so tough, I was able to tattoo. And then it's like, but nothing here. It's like the band that ends with like this open, which... I mean, cheers if you try it. Dear God, I can't. But it's like, oh, let me tell you about chronic pain real quick.
I have like the whole underarm.
Yeah, I saw that, and I bow down. My pain threshold does not go to tattooing this or this. Like,
up near the armpit has definitely been the worst. But I think it was like extra bad for me because of the old TOS. But I didn't know that at the time. And I was like, no, armpits just suck. So now I'm really curious, like without the ribs, if it's any better. Because I feel like I'll get some kind of tattoo like integrated with the scar, not to like cover it, but kind of like point at it, and be like, hey, look at that. That's a thing.
I love like the integration of scars, and like I have tons of scars around my arms and my legs, and I'm like, that'd be so fun to like find a way to like involve that. Like you see people with like keloid scars that actually turn it into like a 3D tattoo, and it's like, that is so cool.
Yeah,
I saw you wanted to, like, you're like, if I was healthy, I would consider being a tattoo artist. And I was like, oh my gosh, you are my spirit person. Like, when I was like 16, I haunted tattoo shops all the way until I was 18. Like, how do I get an apprenticeship? How do I? That's...
Well, because I'm completely hooked. And I've tattooed myself a bunch of times. Because I was getting tattooed once by a dude, and he's like, oh, have you ever considered tattooing? He's like, you're a painter, like you have the artist side of it. I kind of laughed, and I was like, oh no, like I don't think I'm good enough for that. And he's like, but you're already the artist, so like you have that compared to some people who just start at nothing and like they can't draw. And I was like, oh, that's a valid point. So I started tattooing myself. I just haven't tattooed anyone else because I'm like, obviously I don't want to fuck it up, and I'm a perfectionist. So I'm like, no, I have to be like perfect. But I had someone like offer me an apprenticeship, and I'm going to be like volunteering with a tattoo shop. So I'm like slowly like creeping my way in. But like I don't know if I'll ever be able to like hold a tattoo machine because of like the vibration.
That's what I was wondering. Like the vibrations are like hard even to be tattooed. If I was holding up my hand, there's no way.
So like the only ones I've done on myself are like stick and poke, which is like a bunch of the ones I've gotten to, which is like easier.
That is like the 16-year-old tattoo where they take like the India ink and the sewing needle and
Okay, so I actually use tattooing and a tattoo needle.
Just want to make sure we're not going like full, like no one will give me a tattoo. I'm 16, so I'll sit here in the back of the classroom. I had a very interesting high school experience.
Fair enough. Like I did some on my inner arm, like the little like strawberry, like I did myself.
That's not bad.
And like the paintbrush and stuff. And you just have to take time, right? I think a lot of people like really rush through it and then don't finish it properly. And it's like, why wouldn't you just take the extra hour and make it perfect, So we'll see. I mean, I would love to get into that, but I just don't know if like my arms could ever handle it, but.
And that's always the question, like when we're trying to plan our lives and we have unpredictable outcomes or unpredictable prognosis, it's like, okay, so I could invest time and money into learning this new skill, and then all of a sudden I'll get there. Like that was the big question in my household was I got too sick to run my photography business. So that had to go away. Then it was like, but could I teach? Like I've already got my bachelor's degree. I had taught for a while. I just would need to go back and finish my credential. And we were looking into how much it costs. And then it was like, but I could put in 2 years and I might not even be able to go to the first class because I might not be able to sit through it. It's like, it's so frustrating to try to plan a life that's, what you would want to be meaningful when you're like, it's always this juggle.
Oh, yeah. And then, like, all of my friends are just, like, doing the thing, doing whatever they want. And I'm like, God damn it. I was working until, like, a year and a half ago. It was pretty soon after I got diagnosed. I used to, like, run, like, live painting events. So they're really great, but like really high energy. And before I had a diagnosis, I was like, it's not that bad. I can just push through it. And then of course I couldn't anymore. So then I stopped doing that, because I had a surgeon be like, I could operate on you, but you're in so much pain, it might not help. And I'm like, well, fuck. So I was like, okay, now I'm going to change all this stuff. And like even 6 months ago, like before I had the first surgery, like I was explaining to people, like there's no guarantees it will help. Like it might make me worse. It might help, but we have to see how it goes. And like my complete perception of my future just like shattered, because it was like, how can you plan around that, And now like I've had both sides and like I do feel really great. Obviously I'm like talking with my hands and like doing the thing. But it's still like there's no guarantees. And I think that's like the weirdest thing because everyone else my age has like all of these like long-term plans, or at least like ideas that are possible. And I'm there, with the 80-year-olds being like, well, I can't use a cane because it hurts my arm too much, and, there's very little winning going on here. And then I explain to people, I'm like, I'm a painter, but I have chronic arm pain, so I can't paint. But I think about painting. And
that's when people start looking at you like you're a Dickens novel or something. Like you're
yeah.
a painter with arm pain. Okay.
Yeah. No, I joke with people now that like if I meet someone new, I just like unload all the baggage right away. And I'm like, "Hi, these are all my problems. You good?" And then if they stick around, great. But like if it scares them off, then like I'd rather sooner than later.
So I'll just send you the URL for this episode so you could just like text them the URL and be like,
Yes,
watch
exactly.
this, then get back to me. Like,
Yeah. And that's why some people ask me, like, like, why are you so open on social media? I was like, well, I didn't used to be before, but then this was all I had to talk about. So, like, might as well share this stuff. And now it's great because it's like a pre-context. So if I want to hang out with someone, then they already have a bit of like background knowledge to work with. So I don't have to like thoroughly explain everything. But it does definitely like scare a lot of people off. And I'm sober too, which makes things like super fun.
Oh, that's great when you go out. Like, yes, I will be not drinking with the rest of you.
Yep. I cannot drink. I can't eat most of the food, and my back hurts. And
that's right, because you have IBS as well. So that is a whole nother level of that's just all of my social activities are.
Yeah. Well, and I was in so much I had so much abdominal pain and different issues. Like I was convinced it was something more than IBS. So I saw like multiple GIs. I had like tons of testing. Of course, it came back normal, which is good, but like super frustrating. So now, of course, I have the blanket statement of it's just IBS. You can deal with it. And, some days are obviously easier than others. And that's why I'm trying to figure out, like, is it connected to the TOS? Is it because of some medication? Is it just because of like all of it? So I'm kind of curious to see if like it improves. But I'm also like very prepared if it doesn't. So
I feel like all of us should get like honorary doctorates because we're all scientists when we have chronic illness, because it's like, is this causality or is it just a coincidence? Like we thought forever that was my periods that were like making everything worse, because the week before my period, everything would fall apart. Like everything. And then it was like, oh, haha, now it's going to be 4 weeks out of the month. Just kidding. It has nothing to do with that. Yeah. God damn it. Like right when I think I figured it out and I could plan things, like, okay, we just don't plan for this week. Nope. Just that's out the door. So it's like this weird like scientific formula we're all trying to like figure out. Is it because of like, is it IBS or is it a side effect from this medication? Or is it anxiety or is it POTS? Is it anxiety or is it a side effect? Is it like, it's the weirdest thing of trying to like come up with a hypothesis.
Oh, yeah. And then I tell people like, I'm an anxious person. Like I did a lot of research and now I can pretty much like talk about the surgery I had for like hours, like I know way too much about it. I know all the possible side effects, and I'm just like, so what do you want to know? Do you have any questions? I'm like an encyclopedia about first rib removals because I did like so much extensive research. And, so I'm a joy to like bring to a dinner party. I've got all this useful knowledge.
I honestly think you'd be a blast. Like you're fun.
Weird, but once you get over that, then I think it's great. So,
but I also like hanging out with 80-year-olds, so that's another side.
But then even then, I'll hang out with older people, and they're like, "Oh, but when I was young, like I felt great," and I'm like, "Well, that's great for you.
That's
I
lovely.
feel like you do now, but then I look like this, And like some people get it, but I find I even get more judgment from older people because they're like, "No, you got to do things while you can," and it's like, "Well, I can't." Already, like I didn't choose this; it's just happening.
The TOS life chose me, like
and that's what I explain to people too. Is like I didn't know that like someone in their 20s could get like an incurable illness where you're just in pain all the time forever. Like I didn't know that could happen. And now I'm just like telling everyone because I'm like, watch out, man, it could happen to you too. It probably won't, but.
it does make us like the specter at the feast. Like it's suddenly like you're this grim reaper that reminds
Yep.
everyone around you of like the fragility of life, which kind of
Yep.
makes you either like the most fun person to hang out with, where people are like, oh, tell me your wisdom of learning what it's
Yeah.
like for this, or it's like, please leave before I
Yeah.
catch it. Like, I know it's not contagious,
But I don't
just shoo. Don't want to think
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
Bye-bye. Like, that's just like mass exodus of people in your life when you get sick like this. It's like no, I know it's not contagious, but please leave.
Pretty much, yeah. So pretty selectively social, which, you know, has its pros and cons, right? Like I always tell people that, you know, the other TOS patients I've met online have been by far the best, because then they actually know like how bad it is. Because a lot of the time I kind of like downplay it and it's like, oh, it's not that bad. But then of course, when you talk to someone with the same thing, then it's like, oh God, like the nerve pain, the vein compression, you know, all these other random symptoms. And then of course the comorbidities as well. Right. And,
I'm just thinking from like, I've had so many surgeries. I've had one surgery I couldn't handle, and that was the bone surgery. And you had bones removed. So all I can think is like, ow, to the like 20th level, ow. And like trying to explain to anyone who hasn't experienced chronic pain or bone pain or nerve pain.
Yeah.
It's like until you've had nerve pain and bone pain, you might want to like take a minute to understand what we're talking about here. Like, I can't even fathom what you're talking about with the removal. I just had a bone drilled into, and that was like my 8th surgery, 7th surgery. So I'm like, I'm fine. Don't worry about numbing the area. I've got a high pain top. No.
Yeah.
I would take labor before that.
Yeah, no, nerve pain for me was like by far my least favorite of all the pains. Because I get it from, you know, from like my neck into my hands.
Yeah.
It just makes you feel like you can't, you just like can't use your arms, you know, which is super convenient. And then I was kind of the opposite, where like I'd never had major surgery before. And I was going into it and like no guarantees. And I was like, but I got to try. Like I've already tried everything else. And I kind of like, so the benefit is like I did feel a lot of relief, like almost like the day after surgery. Like my circulation was better, like I had less nerve pain. But then it felt like I'd been like kicked in the ribs a whole bunch and like tenderized, you know? But of course you can't see that because it's internal. So I'm just sitting there and I'm like, hi. And yeah, like it's definitely that deep internal pain. And I have like so much more empathy for people who get beat up now, because I'm like, man, bruised ribs suck, like super painful. But even then I'm telling people and I'm like, you know, but the nerve pain is less, so I feel great.
The other thing about nerve pain is it doesn't respond to painkillers. There's very few things that can help with nerve pain. Like I've only found
and nothing
one.
helped mine. Yeah, like nothing helped. Like I tried things for years, and like it just kept on getting worse, and I just like didn't understand like what else I could do, and I was kind of just hoping like the surgery would help like with some of the issues up here. I didn't realize kind of like how much everything was all connected. And that's why like when I was recovered from the first one and it was kind of like, do you want to do the other one? I was like, hell yes. And people were really surprised. They're like, why would you want to go through that again? And it's like, but I still have nerve pain on this side. And now this side was doing better, and it was kind of jealous. It's like, hey, what about me?
Excuse me, am I just decorative on this side?
Right. But then it's funny because afterwards, then like my whole rib cage was like, dude, did you take one of us? That wasn't authorized. Like, where's our buddy? You know, like he was like, no, he was a bastard, man. He was like causing damage for years. Like he had to go.
It was toxic relationship.
Yeah, it was bad. It was like a bad breakup. And but no, now I feel like so much better. But I'm still not like, I don't know if I'll ever be pain free. Like, what does that even mean at this point? So we'll see about that. But obviously, like, you know, like any improvement is fantastic. So I'm really excited, but also, you know, I try to be realistic about it because some people then look at me and they're like, so when are you fully recovered? And it's like, never.
That's cute. Oh, summer child, let me explain what chronic
Like,
means.
let's explain exactly the chronic part of the illness. And then I have to explain to people, like, yes, it really helps, but it's not a cure. Like, my rib isn't growing back anytime soon. Like, it's gone. But that doesn't mean that, like, all my, muscles, nerves, vessels are all going to cooperate perfectly. Like, that's not how things work. So I'm pretty hopeful because, like, even compared to Jen, like, my recovery has been like a lot easier, which I feel bad for saying, but also I'm like weirdly competitive. So I'm like, sucker, just a little bit.
Oh my gosh, I like you. I understand that because, like, it's almost like you get competitive at being even the worst. Like,
Yep.
I hear all the time from my doctors, you are the worst Ehlers-Danlos case we've seen. I'm like, yeah, succeeded.
Yeah. That's what I would get
worst.
before too. Yeah, they're like, why are you so young and so sick? And I'm like, it's a talent.
A gift. What can I say? I work at it every minute of the day.
Yeah. And now I have the opposite where I'm like going to physio and he's like, this is the best recovery I've ever seen. And I'm like, thanks, man. And he's like, no, like, it's great. And I was like, yeah, I never hear this. Like, this is like a whole new area of being a patient for me.
My physical therapist listens to this podcast and she's listening to you say this right now going, Monica, did you do all of your exercises? Because you could probably get up to a level of being the best if you did what you're supposed to.
Oh, man. But then, like, I explain to people too, I'm like, man, like, before surgery, I did everything. Like, I was like the best patient. And I really wanted to get better, like, and I just gave up everything. I gave up everything that could have been making it worse. And still lots of pain, like, didn't help. And, since surgery, like, yes, I do all the stretches, I do all the things, but even then, like, the biggest thing that's improved is getting the ribs out. So now I'm even like more into medicine because, I'll have someone suggest like, oh, well, couldn't you just do yoga? And it's like, dude, I needed ribs removed. Like, yoga isn't going to do shit. So yeah, I tend to, I'm going with the overly honest approach now, but I think it's effective, and kind of funny,
Because you live up in Canada, right?
Yeah.
So you don't understand this part of it, but I get to have those explanations with my insurance company.
Right?
Like,
oh my God.
My insurance company is trying to deny me going to physical therapy, which is the only place I can get my bones put back into place. And they were like actually questioning them, like, but she's not getting better. And she's like, because her DNA is wrong.
Yep.
We can reestablish blood flow, but she's going to keep dislocating. Like, it's crazy the amount of, like, what you just said that you have to explain to other people. We have to explain to our doctors and then our insurance companies, because our insurance companies will go, we're not paying for that.
Yep. Yeah, I do like a little bit. So it's true. Like, a lot of healthcare here is free and accessible. But you do have to jump through hoops with like referrals to getting to specialists. But then once you kind of get out of like the basic typical illnesses, you do have to deal with like insurance and private pay and all of that. And like, obviously with chronic illnesses, you get there pretty fast because they're like, well, we can offer this new thing, but it'll be thousands of dollars. It may or may not work. And I didn't have health insurance for a long time because I'm an artist. And now I'm under like my partner's insurance, which is great. And they also see me like the spouse, like leeching all of the insurance. And I'm like, physio, yeah, And I'm like, but before, like, I couldn't do all that physio because I didn't have the money and I couldn't afford it and it's not covered. And so no, it's definitely not as bad as the States. Like, I didn't have to pay for surgery, which is crazy. And I'm like super, super grateful. But outside of that, there is like some hassle, but yeah, not as bad. I'm not going to try to pretend it's as bad as the States.
Canada, do you want to adopt us, please?
Right? Yeah, no, there's definitely some pros to being on this side of the border. But
that's the big question over here, because I don't know if you like pay attention to our politics the way like rapidly with like, well, it's been really exciting because we have some really interesting new people in the House of Representatives who are pushing for Medicare for all. So of course, like the capitalist group freaks the hell out. But what's interesting is in the United States, we're not legally allowed to negotiate with our drug companies. You guys are. So when they're like putting out like how much it would cost for all of us for Medicare for all, they're using those numbers of like these hyperinflated, like I was charged $15,000 for an MRI. I'm going to guess if you went even without insurance to your hospital in Canada, you would not be charged $15,000.
Nope. It's
So,
free.
yeah, I mean,
like waiting like 6 months, but you will get it.
You will. So, like, someone from the United States went over to Canada and they broke their leg and they put out a whole story about it in the newspaper, which was like, this is how much it cost because I was charged all of it because I wasn't a Canadian citizen.
Yep.
So I stayed overnight. I had physical therapy. I had a surgery done, and it was like under $5,000, which might sound like a lot of money if you're in Canada or in Australia.
Yeah.
But here, $5,000 would have covered you going into the ER and talking to a doctor. Like, that's what like $5,000.
Yeah, the other people I know who have TOS, they had the same surgery, but the collarbone incisions instead of the armpits.
That could be a really good tattoo. I could see that being like a very good tattoo.
Yeah.
Beating.
Right? Yeah. No, then I'm actually glad I didn't know because it would have gone through mine and like it would have looked badass, but like, but yeah, no, just in the armpit, no big deal. But yeah, and then, they kick everyone out of the hospital sooner in the States as well, right? So I'm here and like I was in the hospital for like 4 to 5 days each time. And I had like, all the pain and all the stuff. And yeah, I remember asking some other patients and they're like, no, like I'm in the States. I had the same surgery, but collarbone. They kicked me out after the second day, and it was still like $30,000. And I'm like,
yeah, I'm actually surprised it was 30. I mean, like that.
Right?
That sounds really like. So here you don't.
Because it's a fast surgery. It's only an hour and a half. They just go in and get out. Yeah. So I think that helps a little bit, but.
It also depends on which hospital you're at. Like hospitals for the same procedure, even in the same city, can vary up to $20,000, and they won't tell you when you go in. Like you have to wait for the
of course
bill.
not. Yeah, surprise. Yeah.
Guess what? I mean, that's why here in the United States, so many people go bankrupt is because of an unexpected emergency. Where I think in Canada and in Great Britain and in Australia, the number is so low of people who go bankrupt for health reasons that it's not even registering.
Exactly, because usually there's some kind of option, Yeah. And there is the misconception when some people think like, okay, well, you got a chronic illness, you go on disability, everything's covered by insurance. And I'm like,
cute.
Because like most of the, kind of extra things that you get into with chronic illness are not covered. They're not accessible. They're not covered by insurance. And like, I'm so young, like I didn't build up enough like disability coverage because I haven't been working for that long. So no disability for me, And so I think it's, unfortunately always more complicated than anyone thinks. But yeah, no, like I can't imagine having to pay for all the scans because all the scans here are free. And I've had like so many MRIs just to check all the other parts of my body. Because like I was misdiagnosed for so long and I was kind of jumping between specialists being like, is it fibromyalgia? Is it MS? And I'm like, oh dear God, people. Okay. And and I keep on getting all the scans and I'm like, I'm the guinea pig, just like do whatever you want. And then they were all normal. And that was frustrating enough when it's free, let alone when you're paying like 15 grand for a scan that can be normal. And it's just, I have so much like respect and empathy. But
empathy, go with empathy. Respect does not be deserved because all of us who are sick would want to have an affordable option to handle. I understand. I've gotten called out for this and it's fair. I am very liberal and I live in a very pretty little bubble where things are a certain way. I understand. I don't get what you're going through in West Virginia. I understand. I have no concept of Kentucky, of like, I get that there are things that I don't get, but I will say that I'm going to speak for all of us here in the U.S. saying that we would love an option that means no one goes bankrupt because they got sick or there's an emergency. Like, I feel like that should not even be a bipartisan issue. Like, let's go for humanity and make sure that everyone can, like, stay as healthy as possible.
Yep. Well, I always turn to my boyfriend and I'm like, thanks for not leaving me. Okay, a lot of people do that, and you're the man, and it's great because like last year, like after that, fateful surgeon appointment of like, it probably won't help. I stopped working, but it was a conversation with him being like, can you support us? Like, does this make sense? I wasn't just like, I quit, sucker. And
and you're stuck with me.
Right. But at the same time, I was like, I felt like such a burden. I was so apologetic because I just want to be independent and be able to do the thing. But like without him, like I would have had to keep working. I wouldn't even be able to have surgery. Or of course, the alternative, I go back to my parents, and it's like, I love my parents, but it's nice to not have to live with your parents and have them take care of you. So like I try to be independent, but there's only so much you can do sometimes. And yeah, let alone if you're alone or you can't stop working, right? Which is a real possibility. So yeah.
Here's the artist guilty chronic illness question. You have spoons one day. Do you A, clean the house and try to like make everything as nice as possible, or do you create art?
I would definitely just paint. Yeah.
Awesome. I go through that. So I'm what I do is illustrate and write children's books. And so I used to be a painter like you. I used to have like big canvases. I did oils, but I dislocate my wrists all the time. So I can't even hold canvases and paintbrushes. So I switched over to iPad art.
Yeah.
And, but I still get this horrible guilty feeling when I'm like, I have spoons. I should be like cleaning the house, or at least I should put the dishes away. Like I can wheel my wheelchair over and put dishes away. And it's like, or I could listen to music, go on Pinterest and do some illustrations for that book that's supposed to be out next month.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I have my drafting table behind me.
Oh, that's so pretty.
So yeah, that's my little art nook.
Oh,
doesn't
God,
get
I love
used
your
as
work.
much as it was before, but still there doing its thing. Hoping to paint more now because like I have less nerve pain, so we'll see. But I'm still like I have to go through a lot of physio to like get to that point. So yeah.
It's so interesting, like, what we have as goals, like, as we get sicker, like, what's the goal for physical therapy? It's like, mine is, I want to ride a bike again. That's my favorite thing ever. It's freedom, and she's like, yeah, that's cute. Sure, we'll say we're working towards that. That's adorable, Monica. Yes, we could totally, like, consider that someday you could ride a bike. But it's those little things that keep me doing all those bridges and...
Like, oh yeah, because like for me, like the big thing that's been physically limited is like overhead movement. So like since surgery, like I've worked with physio to get this guy up. But this one obviously just had surgery, so we're about here, which is really good considering.
Better than I can do.
Right? But yeah, no, then I have friends and they'll just kind of be hanging out and they'll do like the casual like overhead kind of yoga stretch, and I'm just there and I'm like, oh,
darn you,
beautiful,
darn you, and you're like, stretching.
Yeah, and it's just like such a little thing, and I tell people like, I just want to be able to paint and not be in excruciating pain, or just being able to do like daily things. Like I can't carry anything. It's really hard to shower, like it's all those little things. And that's when, I tell people, I'm like, I'm basically retired, but I'm 26. Woohoo!
Yeah.
And so it's like, I definitely have like low energy all the time. And sometimes I've been like a better roommate the past year because I'm home all the time now. So like I try to clean a little bit, but there is some stuff that I just can't do, and thankfully my boyfriend's not an asshole and actually understands, but a lot of people don't, and sometimes people ask me, they're like, oh, well, are you ever worried if you're having someone over and your place is messy? And I'm like, no, because if they're not going to be my friend because it's messy, then they might as well leave. Like this, I'm not going to have a perfectly clean place ever. So yeah, I think being realistic is a benefit, but then of course some people misconstrue that as being negative, and it's not. But sometimes people think that like, yeah, if you have positive thoughts, you'll get better, and it's like, no, and then everyone collectively does the face palm, because it's just so wrong.
I mean, we're all gonna go unconscious from face palming anyway, like.
Yeah.
But, like, with the house stuff, it's amazing, like, how my give a fuck has dropped down so historically low that it's like, if it upsets you, please come over and clean. Like, I'll chat with you. I will entertain you the whole time you're cleaning if you would like, but come over and clean.
Yep. Oh yeah, because it's just not a big priority, right? Like when you're not feeling well, like you're not gonna be like, I really need to sweep the floor right now. Like, no.
So I actually do get that because like I feel so guilty with my husband works
Yeah, that's fair.
incredibly long hours and then he comes home exhausted
Yeah.
and then he picks up all of the schoolwork stuff that I wasn't able to help out my daughter with and then he pays the bills and then he makes dinner and then he helps me out. So it's like if I have spoons, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I've got to do something nice for him and like whenever I can, I like get super psycho about the house. But I bought my favorite purchase this year was a D-Bot, and it's this little like robot vacuum cleaner, and it is my favorite thing that we've ever gotten. I'm like, oh, I just press it and it starts moving and cleans my house. Yes! And we also have a wolf. It's like this 90-pound neuroses covered in fur. And he sheds off like an entire dog a day. So it like
oh my God.
we have to keep on top of this stuff, otherwise.
Oh, here I can show you. Do you like rabbits?
I love rabbits. We used to have one.
Let's see. I have a pet cat. Let's see if we can.
You got black cat. Oh,
yeah. So this is
beautiful?
Zoe. Hi, buddy. But then I have
famous.
I have 2 pet rabbits.
Oh my God, they're cute.
Hey guys.
Oh. I did a whole children's book with a rabbit.
Yeah, I love them. They're little weirdos, but they're pretty great.
Bunnies are awesome. I love having them. I will not have them again because their little hearts just cannot handle the wolf and the dogs that we have.
Completely. Yeah.
Our chickens are just too stupid to get afraid. We've got 4 chickens that will try to put their head into the wolf's mouth, so they just don't seem to have heart attacks. They just have no Darwin in them. There's no survival instinct in these
They're
creatures.
going down. Yeah.
My husband's like, you know what? If we didn't like find a way to farm them and use their eggs, they would never have survived as a species. Like they would have been gone. Yeah, we have a little mini farm going here.
Man.
That was always my dream, was like the farm. And so like I tried to convince my husband that like we need to like get a place with some land so we can have like sheep and goats. He's like, honey, how much better have you felt in the last 5 years? Like, how much of a farm do you think you could actually handle? Damn you and your reality.
Right? Yeah, no, I actually grew up in the country and my parents had like a hobby farm.
Oh.
So that's why like even I have a small apartment, I always have pets. I have a hamster too, but he's sleeping. And but now I live like in the city. It's actually pretty. Let's see if we can show you this. Vancouver.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Like where I want to move. Yes.
Right. So now I live in like the city, but it's great because like I can't drive. I shouldn't drive anyway because I'm on all this medication. But now of course like I can just walk to the pharmacy because it's 2 blocks away and it makes it a lot easier. But then I can't carry anything. So there's still a problem, but a little bit easier to manage, right? Even I was hanging out with a friend yesterday. They were stranded here because of the snow. And we were walking around and I was like, oh, the pet store is right here. Do you mind carrying like a bag of pet food for me? And he's like, yeah, no problem. I was like, you're the best. You know?
I do feel like most of my like get-togethers with people are like, and can you help me run the errands I couldn't get to? Like
pretty much, yeah. So no, and I was so glad that he was just like, yeah, no big deal. You,
like you're the best. Love you.
Yeah.
So how's your public transportation system over there? Is it good?
Sorry?
Public transportation over there. How is it?
It has its pros and cons. I mostly walk everywhere, but then I take transit when I need to. And I mean, my biggest issue with transit is because I need to sit down. Like my arms aren't strong enough to hold myself up, and then the good old nerve pain, but no one knows. So I have to sit, and then I get dirty looks from people because they see how young and tattooed I am. And they're like, you should offer your seat to someone older. And that can be an issue sometimes. Otherwise, it's pretty good, though. Like Vancouver has a pretty good train system, which is nice because then they come, every 3 minutes or whatever. So it makes it easier in the sense like if it's really full, I can just wait for the next one. But the buses are harder because again, I need a seat and people don't get it. They just assume that I'm lazy and want to sit down. And it's like, no, like if I'm standing, like I'll fall on you. Like that, that's what will happen.
Here are your options.
Yeah, so like sometimes I wear like a brace or a sling when it's really bad, so there's like something visible. But even then, a lot of people are just like, she should stand, you know? And I'll be sitting there in like the disability seating, and I've only had to like talk to like a couple people when they're like, oh, you should get up. And I'm like, I can't, like I just had surgery or whatever. And I'm like, hey, want to see my scars? No,
here's my underarm.
No, I don't actually do that. But there was one time, it was a few months ago, and I was pretty bitter because I had surgery like a month before, and I was headed to physiotherapy. So of all days, you know, that's the day. And you know, these older women get on, and I'm sitting in the accessibility seat, and you know, all tattooed, and they're older, but they're not like they don't have visible disabilities where I would be like, okay, like someone needs to give up a seat. Because I don't want to assume that older people can't stand either, right? Like maybe you can, maybe you're good. And they kind of point to where I'm sitting, and I have headphones in, and you know, I kind of pause it because I'm curious what they're gonna say. And they're like, oh, there's a seat there, and you know, they don't really want to ask me, and I'm not really looking, so they sit behind me. And they start talking. They're like, you know, those seats are there for a reason. Like, she should have gotten up. Like, you should have sat down there. And I'm like, okay, maybe I heard that wrong. You know, like, I was like, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And then they keep on going, like, oh, no, like, those seats are there for a reason. That's accessibility seating. And I turn around and I'm like, are you talking about me? Like, I just had surgery a few weeks ago. And the woman's like, oh, no, sorry. It gets like really, really awkward. And I just turn around and I'm like, you know, like, and it's just like, you know, or there was one time when I was sitting on the bus and there was like a younger dude sitting in the accessibility seating, and there's, you know, not to discriminate, but there's an Asian woman who doesn't speak much English, and she's sitting across the way, and it's a pretty busy bus. And, you know, some older people get on, and she points at him and she's like, you're young, get to the back. And, you know, he's a young dude, and he just stands up and fine, he moves. I turn to my boyfriend. I'm like, she is so lucky that that wasn't me. I would have been like, excuse me, like, are you assuming that young people can't have chronic pain? And, you know, get into the whole thing. And I didn't, because it was fine. But I hate those assumptions. Like, why wouldn't you assume like, oh, that person might need to sit down? But it's not. You're just assuming that I'm lazy and, you know, selfish. So that's my only issue with public transit, really. Otherwise, it's pretty good. But I know a lot of people hate the idea of taking public transit to and from appointments and stuff. But like, I go alone. I can't drive. It's what I have to do. So I don't really have much of an option. But
I'm just curious because, like, over here, our public transportation system in the Bay Area is so amazingly horrible.
oh no.
And it's like, but, like, we're super excited because we live near-ish an area that I could use public transportation.
Yep.
But if I wanted to go to the city, the elevators don't work a lot of the time. So you don't know which exit you could get off at. Same thing like when we go to New York, and it's like, the subway would be great and much less expensive than Ubering everywhere. Paris, same thing. Like, whenever you go traveling, it's like, yeah, the public transportation would be awesome. Yeah. But whatever's on the ground is on my hands, which, you know, it's like, I have yet to see a super clean public transportation area.
Oh, yeah,
and
no.
The elevators don't always work in places, and it's just amazing how often the elevators don't work. And I'm like, really?
No, it's true. Yeah, a lot of the elevators will be out here. Yeah, no, definitely that happens here, which is ridiculous because, of course, people are like, who actually needs the elevator? And it's like, no, man, some people really do. Or like not having like super accessible washrooms. And then like people will offer me a ride and they're like, oh, like I can give you a ride to wherever. And I'm like, so I get really motion sick in cars. I was like, I may or may not throw up in your back seat. Do you still want me in the car? You know? And that's why I actually like public transit, because it makes me less nauseous. But then that's like a whole thing I have to explain to people. And some people are really surprised why I wouldn't want to take them up on their offer. And it's like, just because you drive doesn't mean you're a good driver and I'm not going to get sick, you know? And some people are really understanding and don't mind, but a lot of people don't want someone who might throw up in their car, which is fair, you know? but,
For me,
right.
it's
Yeah.
also like I always feel like I have to sing for my supper. Like if someone's doing me a favor, I better be
Yep.
really entertaining for them, and
Yep.
that's
Exactly.
I
Yep.
don't always have the energy for that, especially if it's like I'm going to my doctor's to get my bones relocated. Like
Yep.
there's
Yep.
one person who can deal with me after that, and that's my mom. Like no one else can
Exactly.
hang with me after I've been like
Yep.
relocated, and I'm like
Yep.
I just want to die.
Yeah. Well, yeah, before surgery, I had like Botox injections into my saline muscles. So, like these
Oh,
guys.
how
Wow.
fun! That
Oh,
sounds
yeah.
great.
Super fun. But they did actually really help. But yeah, like really painful because they're getting like really deep in there. And it's a ways out of the city. So I had a friend who would previously drive me, but then she was busy. So I asked this other person, and they're like, oh, like, sorry, I'm working that day. Because, of course, it's like a weekday afternoon, you know? And they're like, oh, but my boyfriend is going out to that area. He could pick you up. And I'm like, I've never met the guy. Like, how is that a good option? Like, picking me up after injections. Like, how am I supposed to do small talk when I'm like, dude, my neck just got injected with a toxic substance. How are you? You know? Um, yeah. So again, like I get so honest so fast. And yeah. So
Yeah, it
that's why a
really
lot of times I like public transit because then I just don't have to talk to anyone either.
headphones
Or I
on.
tell like, yeah, or I tell cab drivers like, hey, like I just had like treatment done. I'm really nauseous. Like I don't really want to do small talk
Yeah, I hear that so much. And you've frozen. So
and still are like asking questions and yeah.
yeah, it's hard to like not feel like it's hard to ask for exactly what you need sometimes and
Yep,
like be like,
exactly.
look, I am not usually a bitch. Well, I am, but it's it's an unintentional bitchiness at the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
yeah, that's difficult. So we are actually almost at an hour, and you're just way too much fun to chat with. Is there anything you wanted to like highlight or promote before we wrap this up?
um That's a good question. I think one thing I would want to say is just if everyone's doubting you, don't keep looking for answers because I know a lot of people who are like really persistent from the get go. You know, they're going to all the doctors, they're doing all the things, but I know a lot of people where they'll have some pain, but you know, they're in their 20s and they're like, it's not really a big deal, right? And they just kind of keep pushing through it. And like if I wouldn't have kept asking and yeah defining those limits and actually making changes, like I wouldn't have had surgery and I wouldn't be feeling better. So I think like that should always be emphasized, but otherwise no, I think this was great. Because I think you should be able to laugh about the little things and just kind of talk super honestly about what it's like living with this, like the good and the bad, right? So yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to hearing my voice on the podcast.
Oh man, that's a whole nother. I finally gotten over it. Like I used to hate hearing these I actually almost never would like listen to it first because I was like I can't. I sound like really.
Yeah, yeah.
And my
No,
son be
but
like, "Yeah, you do sound like that, mom, and that's how annoying you sound." Like, great,
no.
thanks, kid. So glad I did 3 days of labor to get you here.
Yeah, yeah. But no, I've always loved like your approach to interviews and how it is just like a conversation. It's not, you know, you're being interviewed and you're, you know, dealing with like one question after the other. And like nothing wrong with structure, but I think that yeah, obviously when you're talking to someone who gets what you're going through, it's great to be able to just talk about those little things compared to having like, okay, now to the next bullet point, you know,
I will
moving
Barbara
along.
Walters this.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
I don't have the
exactly.
attention span for it. It's really not a choice. This is a lack of attention, which Kiros
Yeah.
can totally back me up on. Where he's like, he brings these beautiful show notes. They are a work of art. He's like, how quickly are you gonna fuck these up? I'm like, I'm guessing 30 seconds. Let's go.
Yeah, 30 seconds ago. Yeah, already happened. You know?
It's like, damn, why do I do this? Like, because you need to write lists. I don't.
Yeah,
I should.
yeah.
It's not that I don't need to. It's that I can't.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, I hope this was okay and that I did okay.
You did
And
fantastic.
oh, great.
Well, thank you so much, everyone listening. And if you want to be super nice to us, just head on over to Apple Podcasts, still the best place to say something embarrassingly nice. Give us lots of stars, hit subscribe, share this with other people who might not understand what TOS is or anxiety or IBS. And this will probably help give a little bit more of an idea of what life is like with this, or other people who might not get that chronic pain can happen to people in their 20s, teens, children. Like, this is a good one to share. So please share us. That's the only reason that people all over the world are listening, because I am not healthy enough to figure out advertising. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. So until next week, be kind, be gentle, and be a badass.